My name is David Daniel Ball, and these are the headlines for Sunday, the 15th of February, 2009. Australia's most hated arson accused a fragile loner. The science of the smooch is chemistry. Turnbull goes into bat for Bishop, Rudd dumps on Swan. IMF, rich world in deep recession. Desperate job seekers selling themselves for $4 an hour. Firefighters recognized for aiding furry friend. Residents make emotional return to fire-ravaged area. Firefighters welcome milder weather. Audacious auto theft nets 13 cars. Flight delays as Qantas staff walk off the job. And in comments from Piers Akerman, Rudd package is nothing but a burden. In December, Kevin Rudd promised to create 75,000 jobs when he spent $10 billion, but there's no evidence that he created even one. And I would like to add that the things that the ALP is buying into will cost us more with maintenance, without saving us a thing. The state government will have a growing backlog of maintenance issues in current school buildings. More will mean more which the government will not support. I spent some 10 years in a classroom which had a leaky roof. Whenever it rained, it wasn't fixed. I left my position in 2007 and since then have worked casually in many schools, all of which have serious maintenance problems, and excuse me, one exception, but that was a well-run private school. The computers will cost the state more to maintain too, and power, so spending up big now means spending more later just to stand still. It gets worse. We could spend big responsibly, but we aren't. We could build dams to give water to our cities, we could pipe water from the north, we could treat stormwater, we could solve our water problems now, but we aren't. We could pay for bushfire hazard reduction, we could build alert systems for the country, we could improve country access to cities to make it safer for country folk, but we aren't. Thank you, Rudd. Maybe Rudd will call a double dissolution at the end of this year so as to avoid facing the bill for the borrowing. And from Tim Blair, Lawn of the Said. Scene. It is November past. New Hampshire man Eric Riesberg is removing Democrat signs that were placed on his lawn without permission. A lawyer appears walking a dog. Lawyer. What are you doing? You can't do that. Who do you think you are? Riesberg. Who the F are you? Lawyer presents business card in the manner of his kind. Riesberg reads the card. Ryan Russman, you are an effing... As Jules Crittenden says, sounds like a fair comment. Both lawyers and lawn tidier are headed for the court this Tuesday where Riesberg, 59, faces charges of disorderly conduct and criminal threatening. Global stimming. Australia's $42 billion stimulus package passed on Friday. We're now a proud member of the international stimulus community. Bitey kitty, it's the cutest sea kitten yet. Update, the UN warned last year that global warming would destroy major commercial sea kitten stocks, yet according to the New South Wales Department of Environment and Climate Change spokesman John Dengate, Sydney's kittens are breeding like rabbits. There's a lot more fish around the harbour now than there has been in a century. The trees hate us. In The Age, historian Jonathan King considers last week's deadly fires. We humans started this war and now the environment is fighting back. As Andrew Bolt notes, these are people beginning to sound like 911 apologists. Hassan Chop. New York man Muzali Hassan founded the pro-Islam station Bridges TV 5 years ago to combat the negative public image of Muslims. He is currently under arrest for beheading his wife. Don't mention the non-Burns. It is a common but fallacious conceit that our Greens represent a kinder, more tolerant ethos. Let sweetness rule? Oh yes, see how swiftly such people resort to the foulest abuse and most vitriolic personal attack when someone on the ABC, Barry Cassidy in this case, dares note that Green opposition to fuel reduction, burns and fire breaks may have contributed to the deaths of so many people in these fires. Some points to make. Barry actually did have a mayor from one of the worst hit shires to defend the policies he's mentioned. There was the opportunity there of debate, and there's hardly a fire expert in the media that didn't agree with his point. What's more, to those Greens insisting it's too early to discuss causes, how about showing the way and not blaming global warming? Don't yell at Ho. Labour figures are outraged that a Liberal expresses a view about art, and the Sydney Morning Herald shares their disgust. A Liberal Party power broker, once accused of racist road rage, gate-crashed an art exhibition opening and threw a temper tantrum, a mayor claims. Liverpool Mayor Wendy Waller was so outraged by the actions of Upper House right-winger David Clark that she has complained in writing to Premier Nathan Rees. Her account is backed by the Council General Manager Phil Tolhurst, who said Mr. Clark was very vocal and argumentative, and by a senior exhibition staffer, Nikita Karvunas, who said the MP was very rude and aggressive and basically accused us of being a communist organization. The poor petals. So what sweet art caused Clark to be so mean? Mr. Clark denied the claims and said he had been asked to attend the Casula event at short notice by members of the Vietnamese community who were upset at the exhibition's content. He said he was loud by nature but denied yelling or pointing his fingers in anger. He was instead indicating works that members of his group found offensive, particularly a pop art depiction of then communist leader Ho Chi Minh. So Liverpool Council mounts an exhibition that glorifies a mass-murdering dictator whose regime forced tens of thousands of Vietnamese to flee to Australia and tens of millions to flee Vietnam. And this council is upset that these Vietnamese Australians and their Liberal champion are upset? Grow a brain, people. Worse for the model, that is. This Daily Telegraph headline isn't quite worded right. Climate change worse than predicted. Check the text. It seems the dire warnings about the oncoming devastation wrought by global warming were not dire enough, a top climate scientist says. We now have data showing that from 2000 to 2007, greenhouse gas emissions increased far more rapidly than we expected, said Chris Field, who was a coordinating lead author of the report. Actually, what's been worse than expected has not been climate change, but the growth in man-made emissions. But here's the curious thing. Despite that unexpectedly high growth, temperatures have unexpectedly not budged for a decade, which suggests that climate change itself is not worse than expected, but less, if global warming theory were to be true. This should save us how stimulating the stimulus package meant to protect jobs by sparking economic activity also includes $24.1 million for Operation Sunlight to redesign and reform the layout of budget papers. Mexico at war, a bit like Iraq, but with sombreros. The general didn't get much time. After a long, controversial career, Brigadier General Mauro Enrique Tello Quinones retired from active duty last month and moved to this Caribbean playground to work for the Cancun mayor and fight the drug cartels that have penetrated much of Mexico's society. He lasted a week. Tello, 63, along with his bodyguard and a driver, were kidnapped in downtown Cancun last Monday evening, taken to a hidden location, methodically tortured, then driven out to the jungle and shot in the head. Their bodies were found on Tuesday in the cab of a pickup truck on the side of a highway leading out of town. An autopsy revealed that both the general's arms and legs had been broken. The audacious kidnapping and killing of one of the highest-ranking military officers in Mexico drew immediate expressions of outrage from the top echelons of Mexican government, which pledged to continue the fight against organized crime that took the lives of more than 5,300 people last year. Military leaders, who are increasingly at the front lines of the war against the cartels, vowed not to let Tello's death go unsolved or unpunished. As long as their killers weren't Jews. The world denounced Israel for killing innocent Palestinians, albeit unintentionally, but what does the world have to say about Hamas killing innocent Palestinians too, and with murderous intent? The new evidence corroborates witness accounts given to The Guardian, as well as an investigation by the Palestinian Center for Human Rights based in Gaza City that found 32 people have been killed by the Palestinian security services and other gunmen in Gaza since the war began, and that dozens more were shot or beaten. Is it the victims that count, or just the Jewishness of those who killed them?